Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming this afternoon. We've just finished in Nandi. We are, of course, here now. As the Permanent Secretary has shown you, these facts and figures are the facts and figures that's put together by the Reserve Bank of Fiji. They do carry out an independent assessment. And some of the key features, of course, is that I'd like to highlight before we open up the floor for any questions you may have, if you want to have any input into the budget. The reason why we actually have this budget session is also to inform you as to how the economy is doing, so you have a better understanding. A lot of people don't actually understand the budgetary process, what actually happens. We have this public consultations, and then we go to different places. Next week, for example, we are in Papua and Reykjavik. Last week we were in Lautoka and Ba. Last week we were in Nasori and Suva. Before that we were in Lautoka and Ba. Next week we are in Papua Rakiraki, and then we go on to the schools. And then, of course, we go to Lambasa and Savusavu, and the last, I think, town we're doing is Korobo town. Now, the whole idea is for you to understand what's happening in the economy. You can see where the areas that we're not doing as well, other areas how we're doing well. There's a lot of misinformation people don't understand. But we also want you to understand that the budget is all about competing interests. A lot of people, for example, have said, we want you to tahsil all the roads in our district. If we tahsil all the roads and spend all the money in tahsiling, that means we may have less money to do other things. The budget is about competing interests, about balancing the different interests. And for government, depending on which government is in government or which party is in government, we look at what are the main priorities. So as you can see that this government, the approach to government is running government like a business. And that is being really stingy, being mamangi where possible. And then we have more money to be able to spend on capital infrastructure. So it's like the way that I like to explain it is that if you go and borrow money to have, say, a party at McDonald's or Chicken Express, you should not go to the bank to borrow money to have a party at Chicken Express. When you have a party at Chicken Express, you will have eaten the food is gone, but the debt is still there. But if you go and borrow money to build your house, buy a new car or do an extension to your house, even after the debt is paid off, you still have your asset there, something to show for it. So that's the approach we need to take. This is why you see that if you look at the government expenditure, the mix, we've spoken about how this blue line is getting shorter. So this blue line essentially is your operating expenditure, things that we need to do every day to run government. Photocopying paper, buying toilet paper, running the government vehicles, rental, water, electricity, paying of the salaries. So we need to tighten that. But we are increasing this brown line. This brown line basically means that more money is now being spent on building things. So building a road. For many years, everybody has said the Singatoka Valley is the vegetable and the fruit salad bowl of Fiji. But nobody invested in the roads. So by the time your tomatoes comes on the pothole road, all the way to Singatoka market, the shelf life of the tomato is reduced because it's damaged. So the more the fruit gets damaged, the shorter lifespan it has. It rots more quickly. So that's a strategic investment, because we know that that's where you grow fruits and vegetables. If you have the roads built better, that means the farmers' produce will stay longer. So these are the kind of strategic decisions that we make. So all that money that goes there, it comes from this 40%. All of these expenses here, the 60% for day-to-day running of government, we don't borrow money for it. We make enough money to pay for that. In fact, there's some left over which goes towards here. And the balance of the money we do borrow. No government in Fiji has ever not borrowed except 2 years there's only twice in the history of Fiji has there been what they call a surplus budget. So all governments have always borrowed because we spend more than what we collect. That's what we call a budget deficit. Right from the Alliance government days. Except for twice. when they had sold some assets and I think they had a surplus. So the idea is how you manage this. The other thing is about debt. If you turn to the debt page, which is very important, is over here. You can see that the debt level has increased, obviously, because you're spending more money in infrastructure. But as a percentage of the GDP, it's decreasing. So I'll give you an example. If we say, as a country, make $200 overall, that's how much money we make as a country. If we go and borrow $20, that means we have borrowed 10% of what we make as a country. $20 is 10% of $200. So you say your debt to GDP ratio is 10%. Now, if the amount of money the country makes is $1,000, and if you go and borrow $50, what's $50 of $1,000? It's only 5%. So even though the actual value of the amount you borrow has increased, as a percentage of your GDP, it's decreasing. So it's a safe place to be in. That's how you measure that. The other one that other countries look at, how well the country is doing, is the foreign reserves. Everything. This sulu, the jacket, maybe the hair dye, the wheelchair, the shoes that I'm wearing, the watch you are wearing, none of that is made in Fiji. Everything comes from overseas. Most of the things. This may be now made in Fiji now, but the plastic you buy to make this, the mold in Fiji, it actually comes from overseas. So anything that comes from overseas, you need to have the currency to pay for it. Right? So some things may come from Japan, something comes from Australia, something comes from New Zealand. You need to have enough foreign reserves of that currency to be able to buy those things. That's what you call foreign reserves. Now, international benchmark is that you must have at least 4 months worth of foreign reserves to be able to import things. In 2005, we had only $549 million worth of foreign reserves. That means we had only less than 2 months worth of reserves. Today, we have $1.9 billion worth of foreign reserves. In other words, the foreign reserves is in a good position. And we have 5.2 months worth of foreign reserves. So when countries, when banks look at you, they say, oh, the foreign reserves is good, so the interest rate comes down. They say the economy is steady. So there are some of the key indicators that we normally look at to say, okay, the economy is doing well, it's looking bright. There have been certain issues, of course, that we've had to deal with. Inflation is high at the moment. A kilogram of mona costs $110? $110. Why? A few months ago, bananas were like, in Suva, they're selling for $15 a bunch. Not a bunch, not those cut pieces. $15, $20, $10. Popo was very expensive because of the cyclone. So there's more demand. A bundle of beans was like $5 at one stage in some places after the cyclone. Because a lot of things get damaged, but the demand for those goods is still high. So when something is in short supply, if the demand is high, the price will go up. So once the supply increases, then the prices will stabilize. So that's what you call inflation. Generally, if you look at inflation, our inflation was doing pretty well. We were less than 2% over here. We were hovering around there. There was a cyclone here, and then you see, because of Winston, it spiked up. So Yangona in some places is still $110 a kilo. That contributes also towards inflation. Price of vegetables also contributes to inflation. But it's coming down. And we expect that to come down and steady off as time goes by, as more supply comes into the market. Now, before I open up the floor, just to explain the process to you, we're having all these consultations. In the next 2 weeks, the Permanent Secretary for Economy will meet up with the Permanent Secretaries of the other ministries, and they have their face-to-face. They give their budget submissions. She then goes through it with her team. And then a couple of weeks after that, then the respective ministers together with the permanent secretaries meets up with me and the permanent secretary and our team. And we again have another round of discussions about the budget. After that, then we finalize the budget. In the meantime, we meet up with FERCA and various other agencies. We have the public consultations. We had some good feedback in certain areas. We had some very useful discussions in Nandi today. There were a lot of issues raised about Nandi River, about environmental issues, and of course there are other issues regarding, for example, welfare and all of that. And so we take all of that into account, and then we present the budget. So the day that I present the budget, as you probably would have seen, I stand up for a couple of hours and I speak about government's plan and for the following year. And then by law, what happens, if for example, if I stand up and say the duty of something is going to come down, the effect of the duty comes into effect immediately the next day from midnight. So for example, if on Friday night, I stand up and give the budget speech at 7 p.m. and immediately after midnight, that duty increase or decrease will come into effect. Unless we announce in the budget to say it will come into effect in 4 months' time or 3 months' time or 2 months' time. But if we don't say that, that duty increase comes into effect immediately after midnight. Even though the budget has not been passed, any increase in duty or tariff will come into effect immediately after midnight. By law, once the budget is presented to Parliament, then we have to give Parliament 1 week, for the parliamentarians to go through the budget, and then we debate the budget, and then we hopefully pass the budget. And then the new budget will come into effect from 1st of August. As you know, we've changed our financial year now. The financial year now starts from 1st of August to 31 July. This is why the budget is now called, the next budget will be the budget of 2017-2018 because it affects in both calendar years. So that's what the process is, ladies and gentlemen. We have kept the discussions always very informal. Please, if you want to ask any questions on any of the slides, if you don't understand, please don't hesitate to ask. No question is silly. If you want to make any suggestions, of course, if you have contributions, please do so. If you have any personal issues, you can meet the staff here on the side. Some people have come to us and said, I got a land problem or got my payment, I'm not receiving it or whatever. Those things, if we can put that and talk to the staff directly regarding that. But in respect of the budget submissions, you can stand up and make your submissions. If you also have written submissions, you can also give it in to us. If you want to make submissions after this, you may get some ideas after this, you can also do that. We'll put up the email address of where you can send it to, and also you can hand deliver those submissions to us too. So the idea is to get as much contribution from you, or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.